Hi everybody. Welcome to Chapter 3. In this video, we'll create a combo line chart showing gross profit and net income over time. Please do two things before you start this demonstration. First, print or download the PDF instructions for the assignment so you can see the step-by-step process we'll follow. Second, please be sure you have thoroughly read Chapter 3 in the textbook and used Excel to work through some of the examples shown in the textbook. You need the in-depth information in the chapter because these videos are just going to show you some of the chapter highlights. Let's get started by creating a line chart showing the years, gross profit, and net income. Now, you're going to have a minor problem if you don't remove the word years from column A. I'll show you what that problem is and how to fix it when we work our next chart. For now, however, just trust me and delete the word years. Then highlight A5 through A15 and then hold the Control key down and highlight C5 through D15. Click Insert in the ribbon. In the Chart section, click on the Line Chart icon and select the first 2D line chart. Excel will automatically create a basic line chart for you. Now that we have a basic chart, we're going to modify it to be more useful. First, I'm going to make it a little bigger so it's easier to work with. Let's change the chart title. As in all financial reports, we need to list the company name and a description of the report. Excel was kind enough to give us a space for the chart title. All we have to do is edit it. However, if chart title doesn't appear on your chart, just click anywhere in the chart to bring up these three little icons and click on the plus symbol and then click on chart title. Let's edit our chart title. Click on it and edit it. So here's the company name, and the second line in the chart title, I chose to use changes in gross profit and net income over the last 10 years. Notice I didn't just stick something in there so that I could get points on the assignment. I thought about what the purpose of this chart is. I didn't just stick in the words gross profit and net income and let it be that. I said that this chart will show changes in gross profit and net income over the last 10 years. You could use something like comparison of gross profit and net income over the last 10 years, but make sure that it does truly describe the purpose of the chart. Now let's insert an axis title. Click anywhere in the chart area, bring up these three icons, click on the plus, and click on axis title. Notice it took an axis title down here as well. We really don't need the horizontal axis to be titled because it's pretty obvious that those are years. So I'm going to hover over axis title and click on this little tiny black arrow and uncheck the box for primary axis title. Now we have the room for the axis title. All we have to do is edit it. I put gross profit dollar amounts here, gross profit dollar, and I think the title is sitting a little close to the chart, so I'm just going to move it a tiny bit. There, that looks pretty good. Next, let's change the number format in the vertical axis. There should be no dollar sign, no decimal, and let's use the accounting format. The format on the vertical axis can be changed in a couple of ways. Sometimes just changing the format on the original data will change the chart. Let's give that a try because it's certainly the easiest way to get that done. And while I'm at it, I'm going to change the net income column as well. And yes, that did work. If it hadn't worked, however, there is another way to change that. And you sometimes have to play around with this area here to make it work. But start out by clicking on the vertical axis area until you see a box around it. And then go over here till you find a choice of putting in the number format. Like I said, you might have to mess around with it a little bit to make it work, but here's number, and I can change to the accounting format, 0 decimal places and no symbol here as well. Now I think we can all agree as accountants that this chart is pretty meaningless. So let's change it to a combo chart with net income as the secondary axis. As instructed, we need to show both gross profit and net income as line charts. So let's click anywhere in the chart area. Click on the Design tab if it's not already selected. Click on Change Chart Type. And at the very bottom, click on Combo. Then make both charts line charts and make net income the secondary axis. Oh, now the chart is getting to be more interesting. We can clearly see the relationship between gross profit and net income over the 10-year problem, or 10-year period. And we can also see that there was a serious problem with operating expenses in 2020. Perhaps there was some extraordinary expense that year, such as environmental cleanup costs, or a revision to the pension benefit obligation, or some other unusually large operating expense that caused this to really get out of whack. So let's go ahead and add an axis title to the right side of our chart by clicking here, hovering on this click on that little tiny black arrow, and we want secondary vertical axis. Now, it's certainly crowding our chart, so hold on just a moment and I'll show you how to fix that. What I did was to resize the plot area by clicking in the plot area, and I could make it that way or I could make it that way, and I think right about there is right. So now I think I'll move this one over a little bit too. There, that's better. Now we're going to edit the axis title to say net income. All I did was click on it and retype what it needs to say. Now, because I'm an accountant and I'm pretty picky about things, I'm going to notice that gross profit starts right about there on this line. Net income is a little low, so I'm going to move net income up just a tiny bit. Now they're opposite one another. This chart is looking pretty good, but we can get a little more benefit from the chart by making sure that the minimum and maximum bounds for both axes are reasonable. Double-click the axis for gross profit to open the Access options. Sometimes you might have to play with this a little bit to get the Format Access option to pop up. Now let's take a look at how our gross profit varied over the years. As you can see, the smallest amount was $124,000 and change in 2018, and the largest amount was $164,000 in 2015. So we could start our minimum of, say, somewhere around 100,000. So let's put 100,000 here. We don't need to start at 0. And I think a maximum of 220,000 is about right. And let's show incremental changes of $20,000. So now our vertical axis for gross profit reads from a scale of $100,000 to $220,000, which is much more reasonable. Now let's take a look at the vertical axis for net income. Our lowest amount of net income was in 2020, $451. So starting it at 0 is probably right. And the highest amount was a little over $25,000. So the maximum amount of $30,000 is probably right. And going in increments of $5,000 is pretty reasonable. So I don't think we need to modify Excel's default for our right vertical axis. We'll leave it as it is. So now the fun comes. Let's play around with different chart styles. Click anywhere in the chart area. Click the paintbrush. And several choices of style come up, and you can just hover over them and see what you like. See how it changes. Let's go down to number 4. There's a whole bunch of them down here. See how they all change? You don't even have to select one. You can just hover over it and see the effect. Personal preference. I think I'm going to select style 4. But I don't want my 3-line heading. I want a 2-line heading. So I need to widen my chart to get years to show on that line. So let me do that real quick. There we go. So I kind of like that. Now again, unless the instructions tell you what style to use, style is a personal preference, and you don't have to use my personal preferences when submitting your homework assignments. Now let's play with the Format Plot Area options. Click on anywhere in the plot area. Format Plot Area, and see how these things look. No fill, solid fill, gradient fill, picture, etc. You can insert your own picture in here too. My personal preference, I like the gradient fill, so I'm going to use that one. And we're pretty much done with playing around with how the chart should look, the style of the chart. Now, as instructed in the instructions, let's move the chart as an object to the line worksheet. Click anywhere in the chart area. Click on the Design tab and select Move Chart. We were instructed to move the chart as an object into the line worksheet. So the second option should be taken, and use this drop-down box to move it to the line worksheet. Now it is gone from the data worksheet, and it's now in the line worksheet. So let's move and resize it and make it nice for printing, as well as nice for Costello's eyes to review as she grades the assignment. For printing purposes, I moved it to, so the left-hand corner is in A1. For Costello's eyes, I increased it to 120% on this little scale here. So it's nice to read, and we need to fix our print functions. It doesn't look very good on that print page, so I'm going to choose landscape orientation. That looks pretty good. I'm going to make sure it's centered on the page. Doesn't even give me the choice. It looks good though. It is centered on the page. So it prints well and it looks nice on the page. It's big enough so that I don't have to get a magnifying glass out to read it. So that's all for this video. In the next video, we'll create a columnar charts. See you next time.